computer. So it has like it has 30-some blocks. And then these three categories, like some more romance, there's sci-fi, but 30 blocks.
Oh, come on. Well, some have to. Obviously, more than my music class. Please go have a piece of cake. Go have a sausage ball. Coffee's still there, and it's still hot because I just want it because I poured coffee. So that's why and my dogs decided they didn't want to get in the race. Well, here we are, and it's November 2024, and we're finishing out the year with with a bang. And I am so excited about our speakers today, and I'm also so excited to give you a little bit more information. The first thing I want to do is talk about our wonderful, wonderful holiday gift that we're going to be offering in December for near $5 for a ticket. We even have purple tickets instead of the red tickets. I mean, we are cooking with gas here today. And if you would like to donate anything to our gift basket, I have an extra set of pearls, brand new box of freshwater pearls that are absolutely gorgeous. And so I'm going to donate a lovely 18-inch string of freshwater pearls. And there are other lovely, lovely gifts in the basket. And I'm also going to make some Sidler's bread, but always do that. Today we have a lot of announcements. And unfortunately, I wasn't at the board meeting, so I can't remember them all. So y'all are just going to yell out, the things that I have a problem, or the things that I didn't know about, or the things that I should know about. But the first thing we're going to talk about today, because I know you're all sitting on the edges of your seat, is the anthology. And Linda and John are going to join me up here at the dais. And they're going to announce the winners of our anthology, our illustrators, and our writers. So I'm turning it over to them. And remember, we will give these two lovely people quite a bit of time to talk. So, okay, thank you.
Okay. But, you can stand here and talk if you want. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Hello. So, I read all the stories, and they were lovely. I still remember some of the plots. So, when you sort like as a winner or not, everybody is a winner to me. You understand? Yeah. So don't see yourself as who they didn't call many of us number one, then not good. Okay. So please everybody. Yeah. So I'll just call the best place winner for short story. The summer Mr. Macalista finally died by Keith Harris. I was supposed to go third place first. And then second place winner, Makoto and the Backing Spirits by John Brock. And third place winner, Up and Down by Betty M. Reeves. So first prize is $100, second prize is $50, and third prize is $25. But it's going to be a shopping spree as far as the novel. Okay? So more information will be provided about how you claim your prizes. And again, congratulations to everyone who submitted stories and to our winners. And once we get the anthology published, I encourage everyone to pick up a copy because you will really enjoy the stories. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. My name is John Ricochet. I'm an artist, illustrator, author, and arts educator. And I really want to thank everybody with CWIA for giving me the opportunity to judge the artwork that was submitted for the anthology. And then, just as Linda had said, I would agree with the same thing. The work that was submitted was of high quality. It was very difficult to make those judgments, but when it comes down to art, there's a lot of taste involved, and the individual judge making a judgment about that quality. But I do want to say a couple of words about one thing, and that is something that has always been controversial in the visual art world, is illustration versus fine art, and what is the difference between the two. The difference actually is a very thin line, and I want to use an example because I have to take that into consideration in the three works that were judged. And I judged it on two things. One was the theme about Lubbock, and the other was the technical aspects of the artwork itself, the medium used, and the appropriateness of the medium, and whether or not it stood up to the test of being an illustration. But not necessarily because it's not a fine art. And one example of that would be a tremendous exhibit that I happened to be able to have attended in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, Andy Warhol and Norman Rockwell. And the interesting thing is that curators were dealing with the distinction between what is fine art and what is illustration. Years ago, it used to be called commercial art. They don't use it anymore, basically because all art is commercial. Everybody wants to sell their art. So in this case, what I was able to observe was, and I'm going to read out each one of the names. And the first one is That'll Be the Day, Shelby Carr. Shelby Carr. The second one was Cotton, Jefferson Marshall.
Yay.
The third one was Sod House, Jan Lloyd. And the awards apparently are the same: $100, $50, and $25, and then I believe gift cards at Barnes and Noble. Yeah. And just to say this, that the reason that the decisions that I made was on the first one was that illustration is about graphics, okay, and it's about making a message. Fine art is based on intention, and art and fine art and illustration are based on intention and purpose. And so the first one, That'll Be the Day, was Buddy Holly, which obviously represents Lubbock very well. And it was done in a graphic way, using lettering and illustration. And then the second one, Cotton, which I think also the artist submitted one boot. And again, they represented very strongly in a symbolic way Lubbock, Texas. The last one, Sod House, actually was on that edge of either being fine art or being illustration. And it was being used to illustrate a story about sod houses here in western Texas when they were being settled in the 19th century. But I looked at that and saw it to be more of a fine art painting as opposed to being just an illustration, although it can be used as an illustration. That's the thing about art. So it can go either way. But those are the rationale that I had for making the judgment. Thank you.
I just want to announce that all the stories and the illustrations submitted will be published in the anthology. And very soon, everyone who submitted stories will get remarks from all the judges. We have 4 judges. I don't have their names here, but I think with the newsletter we have the names. Yeah, we have 4 judges. And the points that the rubric? No?
I'm not sure. Whatever you gave me was in the newsletter.
Okay.
Rubric's out there.
Okay. So we looked at plot, we looked at attention to place, we looked at character development, we looked at dialogue, grammar and spelling, sentence structure, adherence to theme, entertainment value, and word count. 9 points. So everything was organized. So we'll send all that out to you very soon. Thank you. Okay. I can't remember their names now. Okay, so we have judges. Nana is a PhD student at Tech in the English department, as well as myself, Rita. So then we have Anne and Alibo. We were in what they call the UNESCO book capital, world book capital. They go from city to city across the world. So in 2014, they were in my home state, my home city. So Anne and Alibo was one of the 12 people, along with me, chosen from the nation to be writers in residence for the program. And then we have Marcos. He does a lot. He writes scripts, he writes plays, he feature everything. So those are the judges, and I've seen their work, and they're really good too. So you are all in capable hands. Nothing to be worried about. Okay. Thank you.
I want to thank Linda for being our anthology director this year. That is a huge responsibility, and the woman took it very seriously, and we appreciate her hard work and her innovative ideas about how to go about getting us all organized. So thank you very much. The next thing I'd like for us to talk about is I mentioned that, so I've got that. We need to talk about our membership drive, and excuse me. We need to talk about the board members as well, and recruiting our new board members. We have, ma'am, use the mic. Okay, sorry. As an old school teacher, I feel like everybody can hear me. Okay, get over here, ma'am. Generally, I'm heard to the next room. So. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Kim Harris. I am president-elect for Counternarcotics for this year, so that means I'm president next year. And we are we're scheduled to have our election today for the incoming board members. We have some wonderful people who have stepped up and have volunteered to take a spot next year. We appreciate that so much. We really do. I don't know if you know this, but DK president this year. She's also served as hospitality. She's been wearing like 3 hats this whole year, and she's tired. And she needs a little break. And so she's just going to do 2 hats next year, so that's her break. But we really need some more hands on deck, and we need to continue our outreach efforts to bring more members in, so we have more hands for the deck. And so I have a vision for some things that I want to do next year. I was looking in the program folder for next year, and so Linda Brode has been program chair this year, and she has brought in some absolutely fabulous speakers, and we've had such great meetings. And I've looked at next year, and it's going to be fabulous again. I mean, we're in for some really great speakers, and so she's done such a fantastic job. I want to get more people in. I want to continue to grow our community. There are writers out there who don't know we're here, And I want them to join us and benefit from all of these great things that we're doing. So with that in mind, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my vision for next year, some things that I want to do, some quarterly writing workshops that will be in addition to our monthly meetings, so they'll be at a different time. They'll be here in this same location, but they'll be on like a weeknight evening. And they'll be led, hopefully, by us, because we have a great body of knowledge here that we can share. We can also develop our own speaker skills, which is something that I have a goal always for myself, is to try to grow as a speaker and make connections with writers outside of our group. And so we're going to be hosting some monthly writing workshops that are going to be focused on a specific topic, like character building, pacing, different writing topics like that. I also have this idea for like open mic, reading your original work at a different venue, like at a coffee shop. And both of these things will be open to the public and hopefully well publicized to the public. And so we'll have just about 5 minutes to read your writing, and then like in my wildest dreams, like celebrity judges and prizes and things like that. And so that's a way to hopefully bring some more people into the fold. And also, get to talk about our writing, which we all love to do. But to do these things, we need people to publish, to help us publicize it and get the word out there. So we have 3 positions that are open for next year. So please consider one of these. We need a social media photographer. That's one post. So somebody to take pictures at our events and our meetings and post them. Create posts for social media, and then ideally we're all sharing those posts and reaching out to our own friend groups. And we need another anthology chair. And forget what DK said. It's no big deal. It's a small job. It is a big job. It is a big job, right? But if we want to continue to have publications from Capital Writers, then we need somebody to lead that. And you could, if you were anthology chair, you could form your own little committee to help you. You don't have to do it all on your own. You can ask for help from the group or ask for help from your other contacts. But we need somebody to lead that, or else we're just not going to have an anthology next year, which is, those are the choices. We need somebody to lead it, or we're just not going to be able to do it next year. And then we also need a president-elect. We don't have a president-elect for next year. So the president-elect's job is for the year that you're president-elect, you're in charge of fundraising. We have some great things already in place, like our monthly raffle. We've been making some money off of that. We've had a few other fundraising events. We're a 501c3 now, so anything that a nonprofit can do to raise funds, the world is your oyster. So we need somebody for that. And I was going to say something else. Oh, no, if you're president-elect, then you're president for next year. So that's a little bit. That's like it'll never be next year. Like don't even worry about it. So with all that in mind, I just want you to be thinking about ways that you can help. If you don't feel like you can take on something big like the anthology, that's fine. We have other places that we can put you. If you don't feel like you could take on one of these spots at all, but you could help for a few months, that's fantastic. Whoever takes it on will be happy to do that. Maybe would welcome your help. I'm sorry, I just had a thought and then I left again. Anyway, be thinking about it, and we'll vote on the board at our December Christmas party. We're going to have another murder mystery. It's called Who Slayed Santa? There's another little trailer video that hopefully we can get out in the next newsletter. So come prepared in December to have some fun and also vote on the future of our organization.
10 games?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Okay. The chances of us getting into our little toasted yolk place are pretty slim because all of the Milwaukee, the Milwaukee is going to be pretty messed up. So I'm going to call Caprock Cafe because they have generally been so kind to us. Oh, he's okay with that. All right. Well, that's what we're going to do. It's going to make Isaiah happy. There we go. I will call and make reservations. Please come and eat lunch with us. It's a great way to get to know us. It's a great way to get to know how we do our business. And it's also a great way to network with people that we want to be running.
There's 2 Caprock.
Okay, we're going to go the close one on 34th. Good plan. Okay?
It's also a good way to see which of us are day drinkers. So just
Well, I admit to that. Okay. I mean, if I had my druthers, we'd all be, having cocktails right now. So. Okay, so that's going to... I would like to introduce Miss Jenny Andrews, and she's going to give us an insight into her work, and we are so glad that she's agreed to do this. Miss Jenny, would you please come talk to us?
Good morning. How are you guys? There we go.
Like you, I'm a school teacher, so I yell all day, so I think well, it's better for the camera. Sure. Okay. Is that good?
Little closer.
Good. Good. Check. Mike. All right. So I feel like I'm set up for failure here because I am a high school public speaking teacher, an aspiring comedian who hopes to transition down into motivational speaking. So I should be good at this, right? Let me let you in on a little secret. I don't feel like I'm as good at this as I should be. So, any former students that may watch this video or current students, please don't. But if you do as I say, not as I do. I'm going to make this super short because, let's be honest, we're all here to listen to Taylor, myself included. I'd like to begin by thanking KJ. None of this would be possible without your help and guidance. I'm so grateful to you for your support and making this happen and for your friendship. I'd also like to thank Caprock Writers Association for allowing me to be a part of such an amazing group of authors, for allowing me to set up shop at the Arts Festival and sell one book. Meanwhile, my colleagues around me were selling out. And I'd also like to thank you for allowing me to do the Barnes & Noble book signing. That was a really amazing deal and just a fun day. So my book journey began in an unorthodox way, such as most things in my life. I mean, most of my book covers, okay? I was taking a graduate communication course called Intercultural Communication, and we were studying ethnography. And our assignments revolved around going to certain events, getting out of our comfort zone, and having to write about that event, but by turning the lens inward. And we did narrative writing and how we experienced that event through our perspective and our point of view. I absolutely loved it. However, after we got several of our papers back, our professor set us down. There was about 12 of us in the class. And she said things to my colleagues like, John, your use of rhetoric in this paragraph was phenomenal. Bob, your use of social exchange theory and how it affects communication and social norms was exceptional. Then she got to me, and she said, Jenny, your writing reminds me of Sarah Jessica Parker's character, Carrie Bradshaw, in the television show Sex and the City. I smiled and thought, wow, I really nailed that. That's what I was going for in an academic paper. But later, this feedback would kind of be the spark for me to start my writing career. After college, I moved to Los Angeles and dabbled in the acting world, giving stand-up an attempt, a tanked attempt. And after realizing two things, one, I could not afford Los Angeles, and two, I didn't have any control over the things that were happening to me. I didn't have enough experience to get an agent. I didn't have enough, I couldn't get experience without an agent. So it was such a catch-22. And for this OCD control freak, it just was too much for me. So I decided to move back to Texas and start my teaching career. After coaching and teaching in Dallas for about 4 years, I decided to move back to Lubbock. I've got family here. And it was when I was in between teaching jobs that I started to write. A former boss of mine, several say, Jenny, like, your whole life is just a comedy act. Like, you get out of bed, just things happen. Like, comedy follows you around like a hemorrhoid. I'm like, I know. And they're like, why don't you write it down? And so I did. So I published my first book, Good Talk, in October of 2023. Self-publishing has been an eye-opening experience. Some good, some bad. It's a collection of comedic essays about all the malfunctions in my life. I wanted my debut book to be a quick, lighthearted read, meant to be relatable and cheer you up on the tough days. When it first came out, it had some success. On Amazon, it was the #1 new release in comedy for a short bit. And after that, it was at number 11 for a while, sandwiched in between Steve Martin and Jerry Seinfeld's book. I will take that. But on a side note, you do know that Amazon's rankings change hourly, so it's probably only 30 minutes, but that was the greatest 30 minutes of my life. And I will take that. And at one point when I was checking it when it first came out, it was number 3 behind the comedian Leslie Jones. She's on Saturday Night Live, so I was like, even if it just stays there for 15 minutes, I'm going to claim that. So that was exciting. However, my claim to fame is short-lived because it's since fallen in the rankings, and its success depends on how much money I put into marketing it. So not much. Yes. So I'm still chopping away at getting the word out, trying to create a name for myself as a new author. I've had some great reviews on Amazon and Goodreads that have been such a blessing to me, and some not so great. My favorite review on Amazon was from a guy known as Glenn. He said, and I quote, "I won this book in a Goodreads drawing. A neurotic woman tells about her awkwardness and how it constantly embarrasses her. Funny, but I did find myself wondering if someone like this should be a school teacher." Thanks, Glenn. You're such a gem. With that being said, there have been some amazing things that have come from venturing out, as well as hardships, but such is life. What is in the future down the road for me? Well, poverty, because I'm a school teacher. But it's my big hope is to get my second book published, and hopefully that publisher will come back and republish my first book. I know that's a pipe dream, but one can hope, and all I can really do is just kind of keep putting one foot in front of the other. So many of the things I'm trying to do are kind of out of my hands. It's very, as you guys know, it's very hard to break into this field, whether you're trying to do the public speaking motivational realm, or you're trying to do comedy, or you're trying to just be an author. So many of the things are just out of your control, but all we can do is keep putting one foot in front of the other and just hoping for the best. I hope what this leads to is, I do dabble with stand-up a little bit, but I'm kind of discovering as I go through that I really want to do comedic motivational speaking, but that's a very hard field to break into, and if I'm being honest, I don't even know where to start. So I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other and hopefully get the word out with my books and social media, and hopefully someday I'll get some gigs. One can only hope. But all we can do is keep trying. I mean, if you ain't tanking, you ain't trying. So again, I'd really like to thank KJ and the Cap Rock Group for accepting me with open arms and allowing me to speak today. Now let me get off the stage so we can hear from the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Taylor Wilson. Thank y'all so much.
I'm very excited and happy to have Taylor here. I've known him for many years, and I know the kind of writer he is. And I have to say, if you start one of his books, you better hang on tight, because you're in for a ride. His website says, one word describes him, and it's passion. And I totally agree with that. He has a passion for living, a passion for family, for writing. He's just passionate. At 24 years old, a quest for adventure propelled him on a solo journey through the jungles of Bolivia, over the Andes, and across the raging Drake Passage on a Russian icebreaker to Antarctica. So he loves adventure. I guess he had a lot on that. The book Downrange, his first book, won the Berry Award for Best First Book, and it was named Best Mystery of the Year by the Strand Magazine. His books, 4 in all, will keep you on the edge of your seat. After reading this new one called Trails, I was literally out of breath. I just had to sit and inhale. Every character hovered on disaster that would end their life. I love his main character, Garrett Kohl. He's very tough and quite able to fix a bad situation. So I'm happy to present Taylor Moore.
Thanks for lovely introduction. Can I pull this out and just sort of wander around a little bit?
Sure.
I like to be sort of like the creep, Wolf of Wall Street or something. Thank you again. Thanks for having me back. I think I was here, was it 3 years ago? Does anybody remember? Somebody reminded me it was my birthday, right? So I said I turned 50 this year, and this was in October is my birthday, and I turned 50, and I did my mom's. She had a book club down in College Station, so I'm never not working. Even on my birthdays, I guess I'm always kind of going, and that's just kind of how it is. So no, it's really good. It's nice to actually be in this room because I remember I show up here and I don't remember, it might have been double booked or something. We ended up having to go to the library, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting on Cookie Monster or something. We're in the kids section and everybody just like wandering around. But it turned out really good. It's fun, and I worked defense contracting, and a guy I used to work with always used to say Semper Gumby, always flexible. Most of you probably don't know Gumby or whatever, but anyhow, so it's good to be here, good to be in the room. Just good to be back here again with a lot of faces that I recognize and some new faces too. So, and by the way, on Goodreads, just so you know, for the most part they've been good. I did on my 4th book, someone did give me a 1 and they wrote more of the same. So I was like, well, it's a series, man. What are you doing? So we all get these bad reviews.
And my guy got the free book on the.
Yeah, mine was a Goodreads giveaway. I'm like, I'm gonna call my publisher. Don't give that guy one. But anyhow, so again, good to be here. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit what I normally do in these things. I'll tell you a little bit about my background, a little who I am. Maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't. Because I think that's important. Because I didn't set out to be a professional writer. I didn't go to get an MFA. I wasn't doing any of these things. I was just a guy who lost his job and needed to find another one. And my wife always said, don't put it that way, it sounds so bad. But that's the truth. I was just a normal, just a person just like you guys, just trying to see what I could do, had a story to tell, and see if I could do it. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I'll sort of bring you up to the present of where I am now. People, typically like to know where I am on the TV, film stuff, and so I'll give you some updates on that. But because this is an active writers group, I want to tell you about, a little bit talk about characters, talk about setting, because I think those are things that really help me to stand out and get the publisher and to get a pretty good fan base. So we'll talk about that too. So again, back to how things started. Yeah, I was working up. I wrote my first book in actually the year 2000. I was a cattle rancher down in Central Texas. My family farms and ranches, and I was back there working with my dad. And actually, I had never. I always wanted to write a book. I always knew that was something I wanted to do, but that was kind of like a bucket list thing for me. It was like, some people just say they want to, run a marathon. They don't want to be a marathon runner. They want to do it, check that box, and then move on. That was me, really. So I wrote a book. It was young adult. Did it while I was there, and kind of went, well, I've done that. Time to move on. And so I always, I was glad I did it, but it kind of kept moving. I kind of said, I should do this again. I enjoyed the process. I liked it. But as Linda pointed out in my bio, I ended up doing a lot of wild other things. But I was building these adventures all the time. And when I got to the CIA, I went to graduate school out in California, and went to the CIA, so I was writing all the time. So that sort of drive to write was taken out of me for a variety of reasons. One, I was just busy, I was stressed, and I was tired all the time, so I just didn't have that ability. But in me. But it wasn't until years later I wrote that first book, and it wasn't until I moved up to the Texas Panhandle, and I've been working, CIA, defense contracting, working intelligence stuff down in Latin America, doing counter drug stuff, all these, kind of neat, fun stuff, stuff you could write about, and I eventually did. But still, I didn't have that drive. And it wasn't until I was up, I ended up working as an oil and gas landman in the Panhandle. And the person, I was out, one of the first couple of wells that I drilled was on a guy who was a little property up there named John R. Harrison. And does that name ring a bell for anyone? Hank the Cow Dog? That's right, Hank the Cow Dog. So I was like, I'm going to tell the story. I was laughing because I was telling John, like, oh man, I'm a writer too. I'm really into this. And he's like, well, what are you writing? I said, nothing. He said, you didn't sound like you're much of a writer. I'm like, guess I'm not, right? Ouch, yeah, it was, and John, in only his direct but kind way could say it lit a fire in me. So I got my laptop, and wherever I went, I was writing. If I was waiting for a meeting, I was writing. If I was having a lunch break, I was writing. Every chance I could, I was writing. But still, though, I went back to the young adult stuff. I think for me, the CIA stuff was just too, well, I'm going to say it's too personal, but you're not supposed to talk about it, right? First rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, And so for me, that was the same problem that I had, is that I just did not feel comfortable discussing what I did because it was so ingrained in me not to talk about it for so long. But when I started, so anyhow, as I said, I started this job because I ended up getting laid off. So people that know the oil industry, I rode the boom, and I rode the bust, and I busted with it. And did some farm and ranch real estate for a while. And I think I was losing so much money doing that. My wife was eventually like, "Didn't you want to be a writer?" No spouse ever encourages the other spouse to be a writer unless you're doing something worse. And I was actually losing money doing this real estate stuff. And so I was like, yeah, because I was still writing. Even when I was there, I was doing screenwriting. I was, I'm a screenwriter too. And so I was doing all these things. And so my wife said, "Why don't you just give it a shot? Why don't you give it a chance?" We're Dave Ramsey people, so we'd saved money and we'd done all these things right. And, so I did have that opportunity. We had young kids, so it was kind of a little bit of a, I could be there if the kids got sick or something like that. So it kind of worked out, and so I started writing. And so fortunately for me, I was doing a writer's group, probably like you do. It was a social one where you get up and read a little bit. This one was at a microbrewery, so it was a lot of fun. We'd have a few beers and read. And I met this guy that heard me read, and he said, "I want to introduce you to Linda Brody and Jody Thomas. They have a writers group, a critique group, and I want to introduce you to those guys." And so by this time, I was writing my spy stuff. I finally got the courage up to actually write, that kind of, that stuff. And so I was writing that, and you can imagine how nervous I'm with these two New York Times best-selling romance writers. Now, y'all know Linda. She's nice and kind and sweet and funny. But at the time, I'm just nobody, and I'm, with these people. And so I remember, I'm telling the story of when I first went to critique with you and Jody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so of course I'm nervous. My hands were shaking, and so we meet over at Jody's house, and I sit there and what do I read? I read chapter 1, right? And I had I think a full draft. I can't remember, but so I read chapter 1, and the way Jody sets this up, she tees the whole thing up. She says, "Now Taylor, I want you to understand that we're not here to be mean to anyone or to hurt anyone's feelings. But this is a critique group. We're here to help you to get better. And so if anything we say to you seems unkind or whatever, it's not. There's no reason. It's not personal. It's to make you a better writer." So we didn't tease it up that way. You're like, "Uh-oh, what's this gonna be?" So I end up sat there, read chapter 1, and I look up and I look over at Jody, and she said, "You're ready to be published." And I went, "Okay, I don't know." She said, "What's your plan?" I said, "Well, I think I'm just going to self-publish." And she said, "Well, that's always an option, but she said, why don't you go try the traditional route and see what happens?" And so I said, "Okay, well, I'll give it a shot." And Jody and Linda brought me in and took me under their wings, and it was something that I desperately needed. And that's why I bring this up, because it's the importance of these critique groups, are to be with people that you can learn from. Because I think I had an ability to tell a story, and I had an ability to write, but there's so many different things that people that have been doing this for a while can help me keep better, and they certainly did. So I learned a lot from them. So I said I want to talk a little bit about writing characters and writing settings. I think that's what really helped me to get on with the big publisher with HarperCollins, is something that had set myself apart. Now I bring that up because once I got in this critique group with Jody and Linda, they write romance, right? How many romance books do you think I've ever read in my life?
Zero.
Zero. That's exactly right. Zero. The only thing I knew about my wife will tell you, I don't know anything about romance. I tried. I failed. I am just awful. I mean, I know I'm awful. And but I learned what I learned about them. I thought romance novels were these trashy things, and Fabio or whatever. They weren't. Jody and Linda's stories were absolutely beautiful. They're beautiful stories with beautiful characters. And what I learned by being in critique with them is that I learned that the reason they were successful is they were creating characters who were people I wanted to know, and they were creating settings of places I wanted to be. And so that, I'm telling you, if you take two things away from this, let that be your North Star. Let that be your guiding star, because that's what I did to set out to get published, and I think that's what set me apart. I'll give you another example. Beyond that, when I was doing this, and I think everybody should do this, and I'm doing it now, when I set out to write the series, because I was writing young adult, just when I was writing for fun, what I wanted to write. When I decided I wanted to make a living at this, I realized, genre fiction is kind of the way to go. I'm a former CIA guy, military contractor. Why not write about those things, right? That's going to give me a leg up. And it has, I think. Although, if you want to write those things and you haven't done that, I don't think it matters, because there's a lot of people that are way more successful than I am that don't have the background and are doing it. But the point being is, what I would do is I'd go to the library, I'd get tons of these books of people that I wanted to be. Whoever's in the genre, I would get those books, and I'd read 150 pages of a book of a well-known author writing thriller novels. And what I came to find out was, I'd read that 150 pages ago, I see what they've done here, I take it back. And it wasn't that the books weren't well written, it wasn't that that the books weren't fun to read, it was just that I didn't care. I said to myself, you should not be able to read 100 or 150 pages in a novel, pick the book back up and take it to the library, right? You should be able to see that to the end. So I started asking myself, why is that? Why was I able to take those books back? And the bottom line was, there were two different things. I didn't care about the characters. They were neat characters, they were interesting characters, but the bottom line is, I didn't care if terrorists blew up anybody in the town square, because I didn't know anybody in the town square. Does that make sense? I mean, so there's some things that I sort of picked up on. I was like, if I'm going to write these things, I'm going to have to write some characters that people actually care about, that people are going to see through to the end. And I don't think I've done that with every single character, but there's a couple. If you've read the books, you'll know that the boy Asadi, that everybody, I've had people threaten that they'll never read any, my books again if something bad happens to him. And the old man, the old dad, Butch, everybody loves Butch. And so Butch will live to be 150 if the series continues to go at some point, because I've been threatened, nobody will continue to read when I do something. Now Garrett, they can take or leave, I guess, but no, I think people like Garrett. He'll be there because of the series. But my point being is, you have to have these people that the reader will fall in love with, and they want to see what's happening, even if it's not your protagonist. The person that's in peril, the person that's in danger, you have to spend that extra time to get those people where they need to be. So that's what I did. That's what I started out with Downrange. I think Linda mentioned some of the accolades that I had from that book. I worked really hard to get those where they were, and so many people have come to me and said, well, this book is so much more. And I was in a podcast that I did just recently, and somebody said these books are so much more than a thriller. They're so much more than that. They're stories about family. They're about love. They're about loss. They're about all these different things. And so that's what I would do. That's what I would encourage you to do. If you're writers, think hard about those things. You gotta make and what I've always said too is with each character, and I write from multiple points of view. We've all read books where you'll read maybe a protagonist that you like, or maybe there's like another POV that comes in, but then there's that other POV where you're kind of like, I don't really care what happens, and we're skimming through it, right? That's not good, right? You should never be able to skim anything. So I really made a point. I'm not saying I achieved this, but I will say that I worked very hard to make every character in my book as compelling, as interesting, and as hopefully lovable as the protagonist, because I didn't want anybody skimming through those other characters to get back to the main story or what have you. So again, that's what I would say is really take time to develop those characters out, and I think that makes it worth it. I've had so many people that write to me and want to know, and I just had somebody DM me on Instagram the other day just finished the 4th book. And it was the funniest thing because, and Lynn, I'm sure you've had it happen too, but these characters are real to people. Or, they're real. And the guy kind of like, LOL, I know these aren't real at the end. But he was asking, well, why did this person do this? Why did what's going to happen? I don't understand how they end up with this person. You know what I mean? There was really, in their mind, they were real, and so they have to become real to you, and if they're real to you, they're going to be real to your reader. And that's what I've always said, too, with your characters. Don't just give them, the end of the world may be one of the things that is on the plate in that particular book, but give them some other problems, give them realistic problems, and I've always said that with people when I do interviews or podcasts or whatever, I'll say, hopefully, you'll never be in a situation where the cartel assassins are trying to kill you, right? But everybody has had a fight with a spouse. Everybody has had a falling out with family members, right? Everyone's had a friend who that things went south with. That something had happened. You were best friends, and then you had something that you had to split. Everybody's had a high school crush, right? I mean, so these are the things that I write about in the books, along with the cartel assassins or Russian mercenaries or whatever. I write about the things that everybody can relate to. So my character Garrett is very relatable. He's not a superhuman. He's an everyman. Does he have a pretty badass skill set? Yeah. He can kill you in a million different ways because of his training, what he's done, and his experience over time. But honestly, he's usually playing catch up on trying to be a dad, or trying to be a boyfriend, or trying to be a good son, or trying to keep his business afloat and things like that. So I write in real problems that people can really relate to. The other thing, I mentioned setting. That's one of the things that, and I mentioned as Jody and Linda, they used to write these books that I wanted to go to the places they were writing about. And some of them were even places that, for whatever reason, you probably really wouldn't want to be. I mean, they'd be in the middle, they write about the Panhandle and stuff. It'd be like these old West stories where the life is harsh and all that. But still, they wrote about these compelling places that were interesting, they were exciting. And that's been a big compliment. I've had people write to me I've had people from other countries write and say, I want to visit the Texas Panhandle. And I was thinking to myself, do you really? So I said, it's funny. I mean, and I write something about the beauty, I write all that. I said, but in every book, there's wildfires, there's blizzards, there's floods, there's all these horrible calamities that are always taking place. And people say, I want to come visit. And I don't know what it is, but I think it's something compelling, it's something exciting. It's something different. I write about this landscape, and I write about it as this place that's sort of forgotten in time, which, again, when I was an oil and gas landman, I was up on these ranches where, nothing's changed in years. You might see a barbed wire fence, but that's about all that's changed since, for 200 years. And so, but I write about these things that are unique to people. I think it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be the Wild West or whatever, but I think you can write about, it could be New York, but you could write about a section of New York. Now, New York has been done a million times. Writing about Los Angeles has been done a million times. But if you're going to do something, do it in a unique way. Take that reader to a place that they've never been before and show them something new. Let them experience that culture. And again, I did it to the effect of I had at Thriller Fest, they asked me to come up to New York and speak and teach a class on, they called it your character, your setting as a character. And so if you do it right, if you really put a lot of focus into that setting, you can make that setting come alive to where people feel like they know the setting like they would know one of the characters in your novel. So I taught a class on that. And so again, I'm not saying it's a little embarrassing to say it like, oh, I did this thing so well. I worked really, really, really hard to create that setting and to recreate that vibe for people, that they can have that experience to where someone in some part of England writes to me and says, I want to come visit the Texas Panhandle, I want to see what you've written about. So I guess what I'm saying is, since we're all active writers, it's worth the time, it's worth the effort, it's worth the energy, the research, the actual boots on the ground, getting out there and experiencing what you're writing about to get the feel for it and bring it to your readers. So I think between the characters, the settings, those are two things that have brought me ahead in the series, and I think there have been things that have stood out. Now 4 books in, I've had a lot of response from readers, and those are the things that everybody mentions, the characters and the setting. So again, I just encourage you to really don't give it the time that it deserves. Is what I'm saying. If you're writing, and I know everybody's writing different things, you might be an illustrator or whatever, but those are just 2 things that have been really important for me. To catch you up, so those are kind of the things I want to talk about. So those are, now that I'm 4 books in, I'm kind of, if I don't want to give too much away, but I've kind of wrapped this series up for now. If you get to the end, you'll see that I went sort of 4 books building these stories out of how things, every book would end with a little bit of cliffhanger. I'd end the sort of immediate story and pick up somewhere else. But this last book, I sort of wrap up what we've been going through in 4 books, and I plant some seeds to come back in 5 or 10 years. And that's what my plan is, to come back to the series, give it a little time, and let those problems grow, so I can get back with a fresh set of eyes and look at it again. So now people are asking, so before I even move to the next book, people have asked about the TV, film stuff, which is always kind of fun. Well, it's kind of fun. It's TV. Hollywood has been one of the most heartbreaking. You've been out there, you know the biz, right? And it's kind of like the old The Godfather. Every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. And every time I say, I am not doing no Hollywood. I'm not doing it. Not interested. And then somehow I get roped back in. I just got roped back in 2 days ago. But with the book series, when it first came out, there was a lot of interest from Hollywood. That's when things were really moving and shaking. And so I ended up optioning the rights to Universal Television. They wanted Peacock wanted their version of Yellowstone, and they wanted to set it in Texas and use the book series to build it on. Things were going really well. I had a showrunner attached. If you don't know what a showrunner is, it's kind of like the lead producer that essentially runs the show. And he had done the show Justified, which I liked. I thought he had done a good job with that. And so he came down for 4 days. I took him all over the Panhandle, all these big ranches, kind of showed him. We talked through the series, talked through the storylines. But he was going to do the Justified reboot. So they were really, in January of, 2002, is when they wanted it. He didn't get the pitch until September of 2002, and that's when everything started cratering. They were doing massive layoffs and everything, so they just didn't have the money. So I got my rights back, which was good. But in the meanwhile, I was still doing screenwriting. I had some projects, but after that happened, I was like, this is stupid. Hollywood's dumb. I'm never awful. But I was doing some screenwriting, and I had a couple of partners that I was writing with. One's still in the CIA, one was retired NYPD homicide detective, and so I was like, okay. Between these 2 guys and me, there's a story I always wanted to tell, so we put this thing together, and I got to send it to my agents out in Los Angeles, and they loved it, and I had all this interest. I was meeting with Steve Spielberg's company, Ron Howard's company, George Clooney's company, Michael B. Jordan. The people that were really interested was Skydance. Skydance had just come off making Top Gun Maverick, so they were on the high. They'd done a lot of good things. And they had a particular showrunner that they were interested in. I think he was doing Jack Ryan at the time. And they said, well, if we can get this guy interested, we're in. So like, oh man, here we go, you know. Well, right around that time is when the writer's strike happened. And so any momentum we had for that, all gone. And so again, here's me, so stupid, I'm never going to follow good, stupid, awful. Well, I got an email from a director who loves the book series and he wants to do it. And so we went back and forth for a long time, but I ended up signing what they call a shopping agreement with him. And so it's not like an option agreement like I had with an actual studio. It's a shopping agreement. He shops it around, and we're sort of partners, and I'd be a producer, and we write together and all this stuff. So it's still, the shopping agreement is still in effect. We haven't had a lot of luck because Hollywood's been slow. And in fact, I talked to a guy the other day who said he's been out there for 30 years, and this is the slowest it's ever been. But a lot of it, I think people wait for the election to get over, just I don't know why, I think it just slows everything down, gums everything up. And so the day after the election, a guy, big Hollywood sort of former executive that now runs his own production company with a venture capitalist, approached me about writing his show. And so it wouldn't be my books, but he likes the books and he wanted to do something, a different version of something, and so he asked me if I could do it. So stupid Hollywood, I was like, all right, I'll do it. And so we'll see. We're still kind of back and forth on that. So I guess I'm back in it again. But things look like they're moving. I have another friend who's same deal. He's been dealing with a particular piece of intellectual property that everything was stalled, and then the election ended. He said 2 days later, everybody's giving him a call out. Let's roll. Let's do it. So hopefully things will start moving again and continue with that. So now I'm working on, and this gets back to the what I was talking about earlier, I'm working on a new book. And I have a new agent. He asked me to, he said, write a standalone novel, but leave it open for potential series. So that doesn't complicate things at all, right? I mean, yeah, there's certain ways you can end this thing just be done, but he wants me to leave these little things kind of hanging. So I got to do it in a way that's enough of it gives readers an actual conclusion that they feel satisfied with it, if that's it. But I've got to leave enough hanging to entice the publisher for like, let's keep going with this thing. So we'll see. So basically where I'm now with William HarperCollins, I've made a first right of refusal for this particular book, but I have some other people that have pitched that are with other big houses that are interested. So we'll see what happens. This one's going to be totally different. I was telling someone earlier, this one's going to be all set in the Chesapeake Bay area, Maryland, mostly rural Virginia. This is going to be more of a psychological thriller. So total, all new characters, all new setting, and it's a little bit of a stretch for me. This is going to be, I guess you, I wouldn't go as speculative fiction, I guess is really what you'd call it, 5 minutes into the future. So it's not really sci-fi, although it borders on it. If anybody reads Blake Crouch or any of those guys, if you know that kind of stuff, Dark Matter, it's going to be more of that. It's still going to involve some of the military spy stuff because that was my old world. So that's going to be fun, but it's going to get into sort of where science meets the supernatural a little bit. Darkville, all those kind of fun things that you hear about in the news and wonder what the heck those guys are doing. And I was telling someone earlier, I used to, having been the CIA, I worked in these kind of areas of rural Virginia that are sort of hidden in plain sight, if you will. And I thought, that's a world that nobody ever really writes about, that what's kind of going on in the hinterlands. Everybody thinks of Langley or, McLean, where the CIA headquarters is, and, NSA, and we all know all that, or the Pentagon. But there's all these other places when we start talking about Area 51, and, even lesser known places like that, White Sands. What are you doing out there? What are they doing? And some of the stuff that really brought it up, I don't know if anybody's followed the UAP or UFO stuff lately. Do y'all follow that at all in the news? Yeah, so because, there was a time when everybody thought, UFOs, ridiculous, stupid, tinfoil hat, all that. Well, the people that are seeing these things now, F-18 pilots are recording them. They're seeing things out there that aren't humanly possible. And our government says there's nothing to see here. Well, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But to me, that was enough of something fun. I'm not writing about UFOs, just so you know. But I thought there's enough of interest in the public now going, what is our government really up to? And I thought I could have a lot of fun with that in the fiction world. And like I said, I have where science meets the supernatural. So I'm about 10,000 words away from finishing that novel and go to my new agent and let him give the sign off on it and then out to the publisher. So that's kind of where I am. I kind of give you a little bit of who I am, how I got here, some of the things that I think really made the first series shine. And because of, like I said, because it worked the first time, I'm working on this new book, really working on character development, really getting in that setting, really let people feel it, and doing something a bit unique to what's out there. Again, writing in rural Virginia, who writes about that? But I'm writing about polo and things like that. I know it sounds strange, I'm not writing about polo, but there's a whole world of very wealthy people that goes out in the area. It's a mix of extreme wealth and government and technological and sort of things that are a lot of black programs that people don't know about just because they're hidden, you know. So I'm putting those two worlds together, which I think is fun. So that's where I am. So I'm happy to answer anybody's questions. You have anything on kind of what I told you about the writing process, publishing process, agent process, CIP stuff, to the degree I can answer always will. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, probably a minority in this, but the author of the Doom series, I only got partway through the second book of the series and dropped it.
Yeah.
And one of the major reasons for that, you touched upon, making all your characters someone you care for and so forth. Only thing is, in his case, in the first book especially, you get to like a character and it comes along.
Yeah.
And after a while, I'm kind of tired of getting all these people that I'm investing some emotional weight into, getting them knocked off. What do you have to say about that?
I think that's a great question and a great observation, and it's something that I struggle with all the time. You know, they always say kill your darlings, you know, and but my all-time favorite book was Lonesome Dove, you know, Larry McMurtry, and they killed everyone. They killed every person you love, you know, and sorry if you haven't read the book, but I mean, you've got like 30 years or whatever. But the point being is that I don't know what the answer is, what the formula is, what's right. I killed, I don't want to give too much away if you're reading book 4 of mine, but I killed a little more than I normally do, you know, and I wondered, and sometimes I regret maybe that I did that. I don't know. You touched on something though interesting about that second Dune. I've only read the first one. I read it in college years ago. So I don't even know about the second, but I was talking to a good friend of mine. I went to the Poison Pen 2 weeks ago in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's like, I don't know if y'all are familiar with it. It's like one of the most, I guess, famous independent bookstores that's out there. So did an interview there and book signing. But my friend David McCloskey, who was also a CIA guy, he's an author, I was telling him about, you know, how I'm writing this book now. And I said I was trying to leave it open, and he goes, have you ever noticed there's never a really great sequel to a thriller novel like you were talking about? And I said, yeah, there's not. So what he was kind of trying to tell me was, don't do that. Don't write a sequel. Just write another standalone. And I think that might be the way to do it. Okay, so and here's where the sausage is made kind of thing is. I do this for a living. So do you sell out sometimes a little bit? So a publisher says, oh, you know, we want 4 more of these, and you're like, what's fine? But I think you're right. I think probably the idea would be to, what I would like to do is maybe finish this book and then create a new, just keep the universe, if you will. That's so different characters. So yeah, maybe I can kill some of those characters, but then I start with all new characters. I don't know, because you bring up a good point. And the answer is I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you. But it's a judgment call, right? But it can be disappointing that you get invested in these people and you kill them off. But then it is nice to know. Like, you know, I never read the Game of Thrones series, although I want to at some point. But you never knew who they were going to bump off, right? Or, you know, who we would. So, and that's one of the most successful out there. So great observation, and I don't know what the answer is. Does that kind of touch on what you're...
Well, I'm just kind of curious
Yeah.
what you have to say about that.
Yeah.
I'm very much invested in character development,
Yeah.
books and so forth. And like I say, I center on June because that's one I actually sat down.
Yeah.
I didn't want to finish it because I got tired of all this.
I know. That's what's brilliant about the book, but also what's bad about it, right? I mean, you're so invested that you put it down. And like I said, that was a compliment to me when people said, if you ever do something with this character, I'm going to quit reading. So, but my editor said, well, that's a compliment. That's a compliment that you're. But what the answer is, I don't know. I have a question.
Yeah, you talked about making your setting a character. What are a few ways that you do that well?
I think, okay, so when I'm giving this class before, I talk about history, giving the history of the land, because we all have a history, right? I mean, we all have a history. And so when I talk about giving history, I don't mean just give like rote fact, just sort of like numbers and dates and whatever. I color that history. The history that I color the setting with is what I want people to think about it. So when I write about Borger, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Borger. You know where Borger is. Borger has a very colorful history. What do I go in and do I want to write about it? And I know it's not what you asked, but I am very careful about this. I write close third, which Linda and Jody are really probably are the ones that got me doing that. But I never want the reader out of that point of view. So I write third, but I want it to read like first. I never want the reader to be out of that point of view, that character's head, for more than a second. And so when I write about it, I'll usually say like, Garrett, remember driving past this, that, blah blah blah. So I don't like it when you're reading and then there's that narrator's voice, like you're in that character's head, and then all of a sudden it's like here's this like 5 paragraphs worth of history on this thing. It takes the reader out of that moment. I don't want them out of that moment. I want them riding in the truck. I want them looking out of the landscape. So I'm giving some setting. I'm giving them some eye candy where they're seeing it. They're in their head. They're thinking about what's going on. And then history, it'll be Garrett remember driving past this when he was a kid. And remember how the time that blah, blah, blah. Or, Asadi, I wish I could give you better examples. But so with Borger, I think Smitty was talking about, the past was like it is today where, the governor had to send in the Texas Rangers because it was so lawless and all the murders. With Borger, with Pampa, right? I don't know if anybody know where Pampa is. Yeah. I talk about it was I wish I could remember that. That was like the second book, but I said it was like the home to both Woody Guthrie and Dog the Bounty Hunter. So does that give you it's got soul, but it's dirty soul too, right? It's got Woody Guthrie, but Dog the Bounty Hunter. If you've ever been to Pampa, it's a gritty town, So there's things like that I try to put in, but that's how you create that character. People oh, I get it. I can see Dog the Bounty Hunter. This is the kind of people that are there. Or even, Asadi, this last one, he remembers a blizzard that killed all his cattle. And, so you're giving a recitation of facts, but he's remembering how bad it can be, and that's why he's out there slaving to try to get things done before the blizzard. So people are getting that. They don't realize that they're getting that. But they're becoming acquainted with that setting, just as if it's a real character.
Me? Do you do speaking gigs? And if so, how did you kind of get started in that realm?
The speaking gigs?
Yes.
Not really. I just things like this. Somebody asks me to do it, I'll come do it. I do a lot of podcasts. HarperCollins has a publicist, so partially they're hooking you up with those. And then partially once you get known, you sort of bypass the publicist. Edit that out. No, but they'll probably tell you that too. So like with Poison Pen or Murder by the Book in Houston, you kind of develop a relationship with those people where they're asking you to come speak and do these things, sign books and all that. So, Yeah, and I do book clubs. You know, if they're local. I have to turn a lot of things down, not because I'm so popular with it. Maybe just people need filler. You know, so I have filler, but sometimes I'll say like, you know, if it's local, I'll always try to get to it. But yeah, sometimes you just can't do it. I've hired a marketing guy, and he really thinks I should try to do like more public speaking for hire and that kind of thing. It's just something I haven't really thought about, but it might be worth looking into. But that is another thing. Back to what Linda and Jody, I remember them telling me the process was so long. It was taking so long. Whenever I wasn't, if getting a publishing deal, I can't even remember where I was. But I remember Jody and Linda both said, well, get ready. They said, once you get on that hamster wheel, you'll never get off again. And do you remember saying that? And I thought, oh, well, they were right. It's been, I'm not complaining. I'm glad to be busy, because if you're busy, that means you got work. But it's busy as you'll ever be. And this is by far the hardest job I've ever had, by far. And I work lots of hours, I work weekends, I miss vacations, and because there's always the next deadline. And some of it I put on myself in screenwriting stuff too that probably didn't have to do, but you want to do it. I enjoy it. I like telling stories in whatever medium possible. So but yeah. So no, I haven't. But it may be something to look at. Yeah.
So, what's your daily or weekly writing schedule?
Yeah, good question. Once we get the kids off to school, I usually just go back to my computer, back in my office. I usually try to, if I'm actually writing, then I try to do 1,500 words a day. That's sort of my goal, is 1,500 words, and then usually takes me a while. Sometimes I'll do 2 chapters if I feel like I'm really, so be around 3,000 or 2,500. So that's kind of my writing goal, to get that done. And then when I'm editing, I'm not writing and editing. I should do that. I should write in the morning and do. For whatever reason, that never seems to work. So when I edit, I just edit. So I'll just print everything out, or I'll have it on my screen depending on where I'm in the process, and just start going through and just making edits. And I do that till my eyes fall out, my hands fall out. I just can't take it anymore. My wife always says, "Why don't you do a better job of like time management or something?" And good, great question. I don't know. I mean, everybody, when you're doing a book a year, between all the publicity and all that stuff, you're kind of on deadline, and you're usually crammed to get that next book in. By the time you do all the research and everything you need to do to do a next level book that a publisher might accept. So, but that's kind of mine. And then there's a lot of I'll do research and stuff on there too. So.
This is kind of an open-ended question, but the major publishers has changed a lot over the years, and just what are your thoughts about that, about what you've experienced with the major publishers?
Yeah.
You can answer that however you want.
No, it's a great question, and the answer, bottom line up front, I'll say I don't know. I don't know what to think. And again, like I said, I was with Dave McCloskey the other day, and we had this 3-hour lunch before we had our book event that night. And I told him, I said, the more I know, the more I don't know. I don't know. I told him, I don't know anything. And then we got to the end of our lunch after 3 hours, and he goes, well, you know something. And we sat here and talked about it for 3 hours. So yeah, and that was partially, I ended up getting a new agent this summer. I had a really great agent. I still love him, we're still friends, but I kind of thought he might have been kind of pushing towards retirement or something. I don't know. I just didn't feel like he was engaged and as fired up as he was at one point. So I got a new one who just got out of it. I got him Mark Tavani, who's fresh out. He was at Penguin Random House and then ended up becoming an agent. So I wanted someone who is more connected to publishing for that very reason, because I think it has changed a lot, and there is a certain dynamic, and that I wanted somebody who's been there that really understands what's going on and what's been happening in the publishing industry. I think there's some weird. That's such an open. There's so many things that that I think. I don't know. I think maybe in some ways they're playing catch up from how things might have been 20, 30 years ago, and it's not the same. And I told my new agent, I said, they push us so hard to sell these $30 hardback books. I'm like, man, look, you're asking a lot. You're asking a lot of the writer. You're asking a lot of the buyers, because $30 is a lot of money now. I mean, for a normal person, don't y'all think, especially for genre fiction? I mean, we're like popping these things out every year. Now, if I'm Cormac McCarthy or something, and this book's going to come out every 5 years, if somebody wants their Cormac McCarthy because they love Cormac, yeah, then fine. $30 is not a. But for somebody like me, or like David Romance or whatever, not to pick on anything, but it's a lot of money. So I think they, in some ways, have to get that. To rethink the model. Because when I talk to men, I would say 99% of the time, when I talk to men, they'll say like, "Oh, what are you writing?" I tell them like, "Oh man, that sounds cool. That's the kind of stuff I like." Does anybody? I'll like to give you a question. Does anybody know what their first question is to me? Not how much. It's more about the medium. They say, "Is it on Audible?" 99% of the time, guys will say, "Is it on Audible?" I don't think people are, I think more women read real books. Some men do, but for the most part, people are busy. They're driving to work, or because of work they drive. They're working out. They're on the treadmill. They're whatever it is. But people want to know about audiobooks, and the audiobooks are good. I always tell them my audiobooks are amazing. I mean, they're not because of me. The guy that does it, that's what he does. He's a professional voice actor, and he's good. He's really good. So it is what it is. But I said, they gotta. I feel like publishers like, I was like, they gotta change with the times, And so trying to get people to buy these $30 hardback books. Not mine sell okay, but my paperbacks sell really well, but they're $10. So, and I'm just writing entertainment, man. This isn't the great American novel. This is a beach read, right? So yeah, to your question, I think there's a lot of things that need to change. I wish they were more engaged with me on marketing and looking at things in a new way. I think and it may sound funny, I almost wish there's more of a look at, I don't know, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. It's just, I feel like they're in New York, and they think like people in New York and their social circles. And I think they should probably get up to like the Midwest or wherever and kind of re-engage with what readers really want. That'd be my thought. I know that's does that answer it all?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Has AI had any impact on your work?
No, it hasn't had any impact on my work. I will say there's some weird stuff. I got a review one time. It was from a real reviewer, not like Amazon, but like a book reviewer. And it was a very mediocre review. I was like, this is AI. This person did not. I don't know if they even read the book. But I could tell they were putting my background and Garrett Kohl's background together because they wrote us like one person. And I said, this is like something AI would do. And so that's like, as far as impact, whatever. AI, not surprising, is a very controversial thing in our world because I got a book to review. Now people want me to do book blurbs, to write the blurb for their books. And I had someone send one, and I went, this is AI. I can tell it's AI. AI has a real antiseptic, weird feel to it. I don't know, but I can detect it. There's just no heart and soul to it, and so I can kind of tell. But I don't know if most readers are going to care if it's AI or not. I don't know. I mean, so people are like, well, I can put you out of business, and maybe it will. I don't know. But there's really, at least what I've read that's AI produced, there's no soul. It's just very bland. So it's not like it can't create a good story. It just doesn't have any soul to it. I don't know how to put it. But yeah, I suppose there's programs now that are like, write your whole book with AI. And I played around with AI just for the fun of it. And it's kind of neat, and I have a marketing guy that uses AI a lot for like marketing stuff. And I think that's fine. So yeah, will that impact me? Yeah. But I guess the question is, I don't know yet. Will we all be reading AI-generated books at some point? Maybe. Hope not. But I know there's supposedly things in contracts now. Because I told one of my friends, this, you might know, but and he was worried that somebody was putting AI into his stuff or whatever. And so anyhow, but now, I don't. It's the Wild West. It's the Wild West when it comes to AI. And I don't know how it's all going to pan out.
How long did it take you to write your first book versus your fourth book in that series?
The first took a lot longer because it was sort of multiple books. So my first book that yeah, so
More years of rewriting.
Yeah. So the ending, Linda could probably, Linda, how many times did you have to listen to the same whole thing? So the book that I got my agent with is not the book that he wanted me to write. I got that book, he trashed it, not trashed it, but he said, but Garrett Kohl was a psychiatrist in that first book. And he said, that's your protagonist, that's who you need to. So I worked really hard on this first book, which, okay, it got me my agent, right? So that's good. But then he wanted to take Garrett and do something entirely new, so I wrote an entirely new book. So the answer is, I don't know, 16. Man, it might have taken 3 years or something like that. It was all in, and actually when it came out, or maybe longer, about over 3 years, I would say, from when I inception to when you could pick it up on a shelf. Yeah, so a long time. So then they get you on the hook for a book a year. So, but you're not really writing it in a year. You're doing that. So January I turn it in. So I usually start around January and turn it in like August or something. But yeah, that's your draft. And then they get back and go, why don't you change this? Why don't you do that? And then so you're still going through that up until the spring. On my schedule. So yeah, it's probably a year. I mean, a year depending on how you look at it, between the edits and back and forth and all that kind of stuff.
Apart from personal experience, where do you look for inspiration?
Inspiration, really, I think the personal experience is a big one. They always say write what you know, right? And I think I think it can be good, and I think it can be bad. What I would tell people is write kind of what you know. The first book that I wrote was was a more straight up CIA novel, and my agent at the time told me, we were talking on the phone, he said this in sort of he told this like long roundabout story about how FBI agents had some clients and their books are never that good because they're too focused on like how the job really is. And I took that to mean my book is boring. Like kind of reading between the lines. And so I didn't really say anything. I said, oh, okay. But I got what he meant. He was writing it too literally. So what helped me is writing my world and putting Garrett Kohl as a DEA agent. I was a DEA agent. Obviously, I wasn't a cop. I didn't arrest anyone. I did work counter drugs, but at the 30,000 foot level, working with other governments and all that kind of thing. So I think, what was your question? I've gone on such a tangent, I don't remember what you
Where do you get inspiration?
Oh, inspiration. So real life. I'm inspired by other books I've read, movies I've watched, TV shows that I watch. I always tell people that Narcos, I don't know if anybody's watched Narcos on Netflix. I should always probably say like my books I write them like another author, another book, but really I was one from like Narcos because if you watch that, there's these multiple storylines and you get invested in each storyline and all of a sudden they all come together in the end. And that's what I always wanted to do with books. If you've read my books, that's how they work. There's usually like multiple things going on and they all come to one thing. That and just talking to people, getting to know people that I think are funny or interesting. I do have a friend that's a former Navy SEAL, and he's legitimately crazy. I mean, like, still in the biz, still out there doing contract work. But every time I talk to him, I'm like, this guy's off his rocker, I mean, last time I saw him, he had a gunshot, and I was like, what happened? He's like, cartel. So those guys give you some stories, right? So just getting to know people. This latest book, another former Navy SEAL, was the inspiration for it because I don't know if you've kept up with. They're using a lot of psychedelics and things like that to treat PTSD with some of the veterans that have come back. Well, that's where my next book is going, and this guy I was talking to said he said he was doing all that, so how'd it go? And he said not good. And so what happened? He said something followed me back. Yeah, right. So that's where this new book. So as an author, that's all I needed. That's all I needed. I don't even care the rest of the stuff. That's all I needed. And so anyhow, so I've been writing about that stuff. But helping people, like being in communication with interesting people, with somebody that has a story to tell. That's probably my greatest inspiration, is other people and their stories. Yeah.
Okay, so since your protagonist's name is Garrett Kohl, do you call your royalties Kohl's cash?
I don't, but it's great. Yeah. No, but I like that. Oh, yeah.
Does Erickson know you're a writer now?
Oh, yeah, in fact, so his son is my best friend up in Amarillo, and we're screenwriting partners together. And so I keep up with John mostly through Mark, his son. But when I went up a month ago and I spoke in Canadian, they had me come up and speak, because that's where the books are set. And John came up to where I spoke. And it was funny because we had an audience about like this, and somebody in the audience goes, you know that Hank the Cow Dog guy, what does he do when he does blah, blah, blah? I was like, he's sitting right there, you can ask him yourself. And so we had kind of a funny moment, but John's a great guy. He's been very supportive and kind, and has been very glad to see that because he encouraged me to do this, that I'm doing this now. And by the way, a little Easter egg, the Kohl Ranch is their ranch. Yeah, so I call it Kohl Ranch, but it's set up, it is the Imcross Ranch is what the Ericksons have. And there's a lot of little Easter eggs in the book that probably nobody knows, but like in Coal Trail, one of the oil wells is like the Erickson 32 or something like that. So there's some funny little things. In the fourth book at Ike's Bar, they said there's a band called Comanche Moon playing. Well, Comanche Moon is Mark Erickson's band. So there's a lot of things that people think I'm making up. To include the Stumble and Go, that they always go to. I always do a book signing after real Stumble and Go because they love, they obviously love me because I put it in every book, So, yeah.
When you go to CIA, were there any restrictions placed on you?
Yeah, there are restrictions, and so I do send every book, every screenplay that I do goes to the CIA, to their production review or pre-publication review board. So I send it to them. It's kind of an anonymous deal. You send it to this site. They take a few weeks and get it back to you. But no, I do have a lifelong obligation to send them all my work, and it has come back redacted before, which I was surprised. I always thought, well, I'm not hiding anything that they're going to care about. Well, they did, and they redacted it, and so I just take it out. I don't have a problem. But as I never want to reveal anything that's could put in our country in harm or any operative or that we've got going in an operation in our way. So I'm always happy to even if it's kind of some of the things I thought were silly, but that's fine. I'm doing it. So, but no, I do go through that process, and I'll continue till I'm done.
I've known authors who have entered competitions, and because of the competitions have gotten a name. Dorinda Jones was one of those people, and she's a big author now. Do you ever enter any competitions for like Screenscript, like Page Awards or NYC Midnight they offer? Have you ever done those things?
If I had like a glass of scotch, I might go punch a hole in the wall or something like that. No, the awards, I joke. The writing things, I don't enter any of my book stuff. Although I probably should. I don't. With the Barry and all that, my publisher did some of that stuff. But I haven't personally done it. Although maybe I will. I just joined the Western Writers, and I probably should submit to Western Writers just for fun, because they have a contemporary section of Western. The reason I kind of joked about punching a hole in the wall is the screenwriting stuff has always been, I think it's, we did, my partner would do it, I'm like, I'm not paying for this, and so he would, of course we'd lose, and I was like, I can pick by the log line who's going to win these things, and always can. So you kind of know it's, you know who's going to win in the race. Yeah.
So just an observation, because when you got an offer through Hollywood 2 times and bad things happened, so are we expecting bad things to happen to Hollywood next year?
So, you know, I have a friend who's out there as a director, and he's took another job. He said it's never coming back. At least not in the form of what the old studio system, kind of like they had beforehand. I think things have changed. I think it's too expensive. I think people aren't really wanting to. There's a lot of problems, and I think people are always going to want entertainment. We're always going to want good movies and good TV shows. The problem is they haven't put any out in a while, right? I mean, if you look at what they're putting out now, I see a lot of reboots. It's the reboot of the reboot, and it's not even a clever reboot. I think they got to get back. I think they got to find their way again. So things, we need content. They need IP. So I think it will come back, but not in the same way that we're used to it. COVID did a number on everyone, right? Movie theaters closed, now they'll never come back. And I don't know if it's just because of COVID or now that we all have this beautiful things that we can watch at home and you can stream it, you can do all these different things have to change. I think things will change in publishing, and I think things will change in Hollywood too. I don't know exactly how. I mentioned the Wild West earlier, there's the Wild West out there too. I think there's going to be there's too many platforms. I think those will have to consolidate, and they're going to have to make things that people want to see. Because every time I see stuff, see a month, I'm like, I don't want to watch that. And a lot of people don't. So, they just remake Map Lot with Kathy Bates. Did anybody ever watch a show called 30 Rock? It was a comedy. One of my all-time favorite comedy. 30 Rock is real. 30 Rock, the things that were funny then, it's like The Simpsons. They predicted everything. So remember they used to have Milk Island or whatever on 30 Rock. Now they have Milk Man. It was so absurd. That's why it was on a comedy. And now here we are. And I think remaking Matlock with Kathy Bates is straight off of 30 Rock, isn't it? I can't see Jack Donaghy goes. So anyhow, what's that?
That's like they don't make comedy like they used to.
They don't make comedy like they used to. Hopefully we're things are going to circle, and so hopefully things will get back to where people will make stuff that you actually want to see, make comedy that will make people laugh, and it's not snarky and awful. You know what I mean? So the answer is, this isn't my opinion. It's someone who's out there that's in the industry said it's never coming back.
What kind of books and authors are you reading right now?
Blake Crouch, Andy Weir. Let's see, who else do I have? Dave Eggers. I'm reading right now, The Circle. So I'm reading more of that. I guess it's really sci-fi. I don't know if you call Andy Weir. Maybe he's more. I don't know if you call that sci-fi, but more stuff like that. Things on the little more sci-fi level. When I knew I wanted to kind of venture out, I went old school for a while. And I went back to some of the greats. So I was reading Stephen King. I was reading Thomas Harris, the Hannibal Lecter stuff. Because I wanted to write something with that feel. And if I'm just being honest with myself and how I write, it won't be as dark. I can't write that disturbing as Thomas Harris and even some of the Stephen King stuff. But I wanted a little bit of a darker feel. And so you obviously heard the thing that set me off on this next one was that guy said I brought something back with me. So I wanted something in that vein, but I think the Blake Crouch is like what I've been really reading the most. I want that sort of eerie feel of like where we're going with technology and all that stuff, and where does science get us in this? So I've been doing all this crazy research on string theory and all kinds of stuff, and even paranormal experiences. And I even went to someone with a psychic ability that Lynn and my mutual friend set up, and that was something else. I had an unusual experience there, and I didn't expect to. And so again, back to the question of what's inspiration. You gotta put yourself out there and do that kind of stuff. But yeah, going back and reading some of the greats. I'm blanking on the name of some of the old stuff is really good. Like I'm blanking on the guy that wrote I Am Legend and Matheson. Yeah, Richard Matheson, great writer, amazing writer. And he had one book that was so freaked me out so much I just took it back to the library. It's not Hell. Is it Hell House? I think maybe that was Hell House. I think. But anyhow, so yeah, a lot of stuff like that. That's a really great question because you have to be very careful with that. Because you want people to be, you need a protagonist, you need that belly button to push. There's somebody that's that central point of contact, and what you don't want is someone to come in and steal the show. I kind of worried that was happening with this book I'm writing now because I've got a point of view from my protagonist. She's a graduate student at Johns Hopkins studying psychology, and I have another character who's a female character as a detective at the Virginia Port Authority. And she came in really quick, and you really started following her story. And I had to back her up a little bit and get probably, I can't remember, maybe it's 70 pages into the book with my protagonist, and then this person comes along. Because you got to be careful, you know what I mean? You want people to like everyone, but you have to have them invested in someone. So I think you just got to play around with it and kind of see what works. For this particular book, that's what I had to do. But the other books that I've written, I'm probably coming a little bit quicker, but not that much quicker. Yeah. Wrap it up. Good. All right. I did, if you did bring a book, want to sign, I'm happy to sign it, and I'll be around for a little while if you have any questions you want to ask afterwards.
Cards or anything?
Yeah, I gave you a card if you just business card or something like that. But yeah, I'm happy. All right. Thanks everybody for coming.
Well, we do have reservations at Cafe. Oh, we don't take reservations. And lo and behold, we have reservations. So, which is always the way it is, isn't it? I want to thank you for the point you made about making the setting a character. And I thought about, we love this. We live here because of the history and the start. And I was thinking about, when I'm riding down the road with kids in the car and down over at Buffalo Lake, and I was thinking, we had a cabin right there when I was a kid. We could go all over, and tell them little stories and make that area part of their history, and so that they can say something to their grandchildren. Oh, your great grandmother used to from us. But anyway, that brings it home to us, and I had never thought about that before. And I'm going to steal that. Okay. That's a great idea. We will all meet in December back here, and I would love it if you would bring your special Christmas treat. Just bring it up for everybody to have a little taste. We usually set up 2 tables of goodies and then gone out to eat. So this group's not afraid to be hungry, and I would love it. What a great meeting. Jenny, thank you so much. Taylor, we were so tickled and looking so forward to seeing you, and as always, I'm so glad to see each and every one. This is my last real meeting that I chair. But I have loved being here for you this year, and I have loved sharing and learning with you, and I gotta tell you folks, being on the board is so much fun. And I'm looking forward to all the new people that will be joining us. And if you are interested in working with us, it's a short hour on Saturday, the last Saturday of every month. If you are interested, it's not that bad. And we support each other so much. I can't imagine doing this job without the support of Linda and Kim and Deb Golden and her great ideas and everybody else that's on this board. This is a unique group of people. It's our peeps. If you have gone through your adult life wondering where are the people that have divergent thinking, that are creatives, and that are generous, well, here they are. They're right here in this room. So thank you all for being so supportive, for showing up for each of our meetings, for lending us your creative abilities, and for letting us learn from you. Anyway, I will see you in 20 or 30 minutes. Oh, we have drawings. Now, we're not throwing for the big basket. We're still putting all the goodies in the big basket. This is just for a loaf of bread that I bought. Because of you, Bradley, I made a big loaf of bread.
Well, we need to thank you for serving us right.
Okay, the winner of that loaf of bread that is very fresh, let me tell you.
And the special base.
Oh, and the special base. Oh, and that's important. Oh, I didn't realize we had to get that through. Okay. It is 880680.
Oh, that's me.
Oh,